Today on Mystery Hunters. King Tutankhamun was just a boy when he ruled Egypt more than 3,000 years ago. When Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered, it was filled with golden treasures and, some people believe, a deadly curse.
Could the curse be connected to his death? We investigate the mysteries of the boy behind the golden mask, King Tut. Doubting Dave goes Egyptian too. He's gonna show you how to make your own papyrus.
This is Mystery Hunters. Tutankhamun is known as Egypt's boy king, and Tut's tomb is known for its curse. It's the only Egyptian king's burial place found in modern times, with everything still in it. Two British explorers discovered it in 1922. It was in almost perfect condition, full of treasures, and a golden mask covering King Tut's mummy. People say later that night, after they left the tomb, Howard Carter, one of the explorers, received a warning sign. His pet canary was killed by a cobra, the pharaoh's protector. 2 months later, the other explorer, Lord Carnarvon, died. At exactly the same moment that he died, all the lights in Cairo shut off. Could a curse really be at work in King Tut's tomb? I'm going in there to find out.
Hey, Ryan. I dug up some more clues. Lord Carnarvon wasn't the only person to die. 6 other people who'd been in Tut's tomb mysteriously died. Be careful.
The next morning, I sail across the Nile River. Tutankhamun is the only pharaoh whose mummy is still buried beneath those mountains of sand, the Valley of the Kings. It's also called the Valley of Death. These kids warned me about entering Tut's tomb. Why do you think Tutankhamun's angry?
Well, I think Tutankhamun's tomb is a sacred place, and pharaohs spend their life preparing for their death, so no one is supposed to enter their tombs.
Would you enter Tut's tomb? He says he'd never go in there. The pharaoh didn't want anyone to disturb him. Do you think it would be dangerous for me to enter Tut's tomb?
Yeah. Here, take that. It's a good luck symbol from King Tut time. It's called the Eye of Horus, may protect you from evil.
I hope so.
Inshallah.
Thank you. Shukran.
Goodbye.
Hope this works. Wow, there he is, King Tutankhamun in person. His mummy is still here, in the same place it was buried more than 3,000 years ago. Are you seeking revenge on people who dare to enter your tomb? Is there a curse at work in here?
If there is a curse in Tut's tomb, maybe it's because King Tut's spirit is angry. Tut was only 19 years old when he suddenly and mysteriously died. Some people believe Tut was murdered. Bob Breyer is a world-famous mummy investigator. Hey, Bob. He says he has strong evidence Tut was murdered.
I've got something for you. There it is.
This is it, an X-ray of Tutankhamun's skull.
Let me take this one down for you. That's the Boy King. And this is the area that we really want to look at.
What's wrong with it?
Well, it's not normal. See, normally you'd have a solid white line here. He probably had a blow to the back of the head. That could cause a buildup of blood, which could press on the brain and could have caused his death.
Hey, guys. I asked a couple of doctors to read the X-rays. What do you think? Was he murdered?
Well, he certainly had a crack down there in the skull. He could have died from that. But whether it was murder or not, I don't know.
Can you tell how he would have been injured?
Come with me. Peter, on the autopsy table.
Now, Christina, this used to be used for bone surgery. Now, Christina, if King Tut was asleep and his head was turned away, he could have been struck at the back of the skull, the area that was injured. Now, he would not have died immediately from that injury, but he could have died of the complications of that.
If it wasn't a fatal blow, wouldn't he have accused the attacker?
No, I think he may have been unconscious and then wouldn't have known who had hit him.
But who would have murdered Tutankhamun?
There was a man named I. He was Tutankhamun's political advisor. Remember, Tut was a kid. He wasn't calling the shots. And if you look on the walls of Tutankhamun's tomb, you'll see some clues. This is our clue. Over here, that's I. Now, let me show you something a little closer. There. See the hat? That's the pharaoh's crown. I has become king of Egypt. Now, let me take you in one more step closer. These ovals were called cartouches. That's what the kings of Egypt wrote their names in. And this one says, I.
But I thought I was a commoner, not royalty. How does he become king?
Well, that's the motive for the murder. He married Tutankhamun's widow, Ankhesenamun. She was royalty, so he became king by marrying the widow of the man he killed. There's even a chance that he killed Ankhesenamun.
Why would you say that?
Well, right after Tutankhamun's death, she disappears from history.
Raya, I solved the case. Tut was murdered. It was I who did it.
I'm not so sure. I wasn't the only one who wanted Tutankhamun dead. I've just uncovered another suspect.
There's an even older mystery in Egypt than the death of King Tut. Just ask 14-year-old Jorge Rojas of Seville, Spain. He thinks he's found the answer to one of the oldest mysteries of all. Take a look on the Mystery Illustrator. Dear Doubting Dave, scientists say the Sphinx was built thousands of years ago, but today, we still can't figure out how they did it. Could it be that the Sphinx isn't ancient at all? Maybe it was built more recently, and there's a conspiracy to make it seem ancient just to attract tourists. Well, Jorge, aren't you a skeptical little Dickens? But you are right about one thing. We don't know how the Sphinx was built. It's higher than a 6-story building, longer than a city block, and carved entirely from bedrock. Even today, with modern tools and technology, that would be hard to make. And you could be right about something else too, Jorge. The Sphinx may not have been built when they say it was. For years, scientists believed the Sphinx was built around 2500 BC, about 1500 years before King Tut was born. But now, some scientists think that the bedrock of the Sphinx has been worn down not only by wind and sand, but by water too. Lots of water. Now, there wouldn't be enough water in the desert to cause damage to the Sphinx. And this place was also a desert back in 2500 BC. But a few thousand years earlier, the weather there was completely different. There was rain all the time. That means the Sphinx could be up to 9,000 years old, not just 5,000 like we originally thought. So if anything, Jorge, the Sphinx might be more ancient than they said, not less. Now, if we could just figure out how its nose fell off. Just kidding.
OMG. So then I got my suspension lowered, had my interiors done and suede, my sound system replaced with a customized subwoofer deck. You can see it all happening in my show every weekday on D-Mags. How about you? Okay, what about my wheels? Do you think I should get them done in chrome? I think chrome's kind of cool, don't you?
You could get spinners on them, you know, the ones that like make a whistling noise when you drive and they go ooh.
Ooh. No, that's tacky.
Custom My Ride, weeknights at 7 on D-Max.
This river is just full of surprises.
I'm Jeremy Wade, extreme angler. My mission is to scour the globe, searching for the beast of legend, to find out what is myth, there it is, and what is monster. These stories come from somewhere.
River Monsters, coming soon to Discovery and HD.
We're very excited. It makes me want to cry just to think about it.
Secretly, I'd like another gale this time around.
They're gorgeous.
Absolutely amazed.
I feel really emotional. They're proud.
All your favourite shows, celebrating everyday life with babies. Baby Time, every morning from 6 till 10 on Home and Health.
It was I who did it.
I'm not so sure. I wasn't the only one who wanted Tutankhamun dead. I've just uncovered another suspect. His name was Horemheb. He was Tut's military advisor. Syed Higazi has examined Tut's mummy. He believes Horemheb had Tutankhamun killed. Why do you believe Horemheb had Tut killed and not I?
Yeah, I was so weak. He ruled Egypt only for 4 years. He mysteriously died, and Horemheb ruled Egypt for 20 years.
Do you have any evidence to prove Horemheb wanted Tut dead?
You can go yourself to Luxor Temple and see the marks of the murderer on the walls.
He says the murderer left his marks on the walls of the Luxor Temple.
Hey, Lila. Hi, Uriah.
Lila Brock knows a lot about ancient Egyptian wall carvings. She shows me the marks of one of the suspects.
These are the cartouches of Horemheb.
What's a cartouche?
It's an interesting way of spelling the king's name. It's surrounded by a lasso.
Lila believes that Tut's cartouche was covered over by Horemheb's. How do you know Tut's cartouche was there?
Oh, well, you can still see traces of it. Horemheb had these shaved down so that he could recarve them with his own name. Over here, the whole middle of the cartouche has been shaved down and recarved. And here you can just see the bottom of the Ankh sign, and here the T, as in Tut, as in Tutankhamun.
So Horemheb erased Tut's name and put his own in?
Yes, he did.
Well, it sure looks like Horemheb didn't like Tutankhamun.
Hi, Alwyn. But archaeologist Alwyn Burridge doesn't think Tut was murdered. What's happening in this drawing?
Well, we have Tutankhamun greeting his lovely wife, Ankhesenamun. But there's something special in this scene. Do you notice how the king is leaning on his staff? We actually found 130 staves and walking sticks in his tomb. And I've got lots more to show you.
Why is Tut leaning on a cane? He was only a teenager.
I think he had some problems with joint pain. This picture here shows it a bit more clearly. He's actually using his staff as a crutch. He has very, very long arms and a pot belly with very, very wide hips.
So Tut looks like this in these images because he was actually sick and fragile?
I think these are all symptoms of Marfan syndrome.
What's Marfan?
Well, Marfan syndrome is a genetic disorder that affects the skeletal system. Can you see how the head shape is elongated? The neck tends to lean forward. The hips are very wide. And look at how long the arms are.
That's Tut's father. Alwyn thinks Tut inherited the disease. He has hips like a woman.
Yes, and because of poor muscle tone, it looks as though he has a pot belly as well.
Mm-hmm. So you don't think Tut was murdered?
No, I think he died of complications of Marfan syndrome.
What about the x-ray of Tut's skull and the mark on the back of his neck?
Well, let's take a look at that x-ray. Here we can see an opening. Now, when Tutankhamun was first exhumed in 1926, they actually took the pharaoh apart.
So the dowel that's propping up his head, that could have made the markers?
I'm quite sure it did.
There are some good theories, but modern science just isn't able to solve the mystery of Tutankhamun's death.
The truth will remain buried with Tut in his tomb. Araya?
So we can't say for sure that Tut was murdered, but it does seem like there was a curse in his tomb. Soon after the tomb was discovered, people who had been inside it died.
Hey, Araya, I dug up something pretty creepy. Check this out.
In 1998, a woman returned to America from a trip to Egypt. When she got home, she went into the hospital. 10 days later, she died.
Then her husband remembered she touched the wall in Tut's tomb.
Is there something alive in Tutankhamun's tomb? Something deadly? Syed Higazi has examined Tutankhamun's mummy, and he believes there is something sinister in the tomb. Do you believe in the curse?
No, I don't believe in the curse, but there is something deadly in this tomb.
What do you mean? There's something alive in there?
When I examined the mummy in 1978, I found something abnormal.
What? Was there something on Tutankhamun's mummy?
No, but there is something alive eating the wall paintings of the tomb itself.
So there is something alive and deadly in Tutankhamun's tomb. Is this the source of the curse?
Hey, Doty Dave! Araya and I were just talking about it.
Christina!
It'd be awesome, like...
I'm losing you!
The coolest thing ever.
That does it! Oh, I've had it with technology. From now on, I'm going to send messages the ancient Egyptian way. The Egyptians made the first paper ever. And I'll show you how you can make some too.
Dave.
Christina! Meet me in the mystery lab! The mystery lab!
Dave!
Oh, perfect. Come with me. First, collect all the scrap paper you can find. Junk mail, old magazines, and newspapers are perfect. It's really easy to turn old paper into new. You just need 2 more ingredients: a package of gelatin and some cornstarch, and a blender, a baking tin, a screen, a rolling pin, a big piece of felt, and another big piece of felt. Now, tear your paper into little pieces. Then, soak the pieces in a bowl of hot water to make them soggy. The Egyptians used a plant called Cyperus papyrus to make their paper, which they would soak, then hammer and press together. Today, we make paper from wood. Mix the gelatin and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch in 1 cup of hot water. This will make your homemade paper stronger. Dump your paper pulp into a blender, then add the strengthening mixture to it. Put the lid on the blender and mix until there are no whole pieces of paper left. You'll want to do this part with someone old enough to operate a blender. You should be left with a paper slushy. If you want, you can add some glitter, food coloring, or even fragrances like vanilla or sweaty socks. Then blend some more. Now, pour the paper slushy into the baking tin and spread it out evenly. Then, lower your screen into it. Make sure you have an even layer of slushy on the screen. Lift it off and cover it with a piece of felt. Now, flip the whole thing over, then carefully remove the screen. Patch up any holes. Now, cover with the other piece of felt and use a rolling pin to smooth it out. Peel off the top piece of felt and you're pretty well done.
Let the paper dry for a couple of days, and you've got your own ancient Egyptian messaging system.
And there's no chance of a breakdown.
Is that for me?
Yes, sir.
There's something alive and deadly in Tutankhamun's tomb. Is this the source of the curse? Hi.
Hi, Araya.
Salima Ikram has examined the walls in Tut's tomb. What is that on Tutankhamun's tomb?
Some people think that there's actually mold on the tomb in addition to the dust.
Can that mold kill people?
No, none of the molds in any of the tombs can really kill anyone.
But what about that woman who died recently after she touched the wall on Tut's tomb?
I did some more digging and found out that that woman was sick before she came to Egypt. Her death has nothing to do with Tut's tomb.
But you said there's something deadly on the walls of the tomb.
The mold inside the tomb of Tutankhamun is hurting the tomb, not the people in the tomb.
Then what about Lord Carnarvon, the explorer who died after entering Tut's tomb? It turns out that his death can also be explained. He cut himself shaving and died from blood poisoning. Is there any proof that Tutankhamun's tomb is cursed?
Absolutely not. There's absolutely no proof on Tutankhamun's tomb walls for any curse ever having been written. But there is proof from other tombs that there were curses from ancient Egypt.
Salima says this is one of the first curses ever written.
Ankh-Mahor's curse is one of the earliest curses we have from ancient Egypt. He lived in about 2200 BC, and he was a doctor. The curse on his tomb walls is quite simple. It says, "If anyone enters the tomb unclean, I shall come down like a bird and seize him by the neck." And basically it was to scare away tomb robbers. It was just a big "do not trespass" kind of sign.
Do you believe in the curse of Tutankhamun?
No, I don't believe in the curse of Tutankhamun. I've been to the tomb many times, and I've also spent a lot of time in other tombs and unwrapping mummies and x-raying mummies, and certainly I'm still here, and no mummy has come to take its revenge upon me.
Howard Carter, the other explorer who discovered Tut's tomb, spent there studying Tut, and he died an old man of natural causes.
Maybe Tutankhamun's curse is only dangerous if you believe in it. So we know now that King Tut's tomb isn't really cursed.
And scientists may solve the mystery of King Tut's death one day.
Meanwhile, Doubting Dave has uncovered evidence of another Egyptian mystery.
There's a 5,000-year-old tomb just outside of Cairo with a painting of a man holding a cup upside down. A lot of magicians believe that that mural is evidence that this is quite literally the oldest trick in the book. Thanks for watching. Yeah.
Remember,
things aren't always what they seem.